Alrighty, welcome to the yesHEis podcast
Come
for
on
yet
now.
another week of podcasting.
Let's go.
As always, I'm here with Tehila,
Hello.
Sam.
Hello.
My name is Tim, and we are here today with our special guest, Jamie Coyle. Now, for fans of the
So
yesHEis
good.
podcast of previous seasons, which if you haven't seen them, I would recommend going back to do that.
Yeah.
But Jamie is a repeat guest.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if we call it a three-peat. Jesse, do we call it a three-peat? Because didn't our first episode get broken into two?
Yeah.
2.5 episodes?
Yeah.
That means he nailed it. If you get
So
a call back, it means
This
he's
could
nailed
go
it.
for a while. So
Yeah.
if
But
you've got a seatbelt, put
We're
it
going
on.
for the extra long.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
maybe 3
that's right.
episodes out
Yeah.
of this
This
one.
is
What do you
part
reckon?
3.
I feel like
Part
at this
three.
point, you're not even a guest, though. You're just a part-time host.
We could call me a friend, just a friend.
Yeah.
Friend of the pod.
friend of
Okay,
the
let's
pod.
start
Next door
with
neighbour
pod.
that pops in occasionally.
Yeah. Well, welcome today, everyone, to the yesHEis podcast. We have our friend,
Yep.
Jamie Coyle, with us.
Pod
here.
friend. Pod friend.
I feel way more at home now. I feel way more at home.
Welcome to the yesHEis podcast, where we talk about sharing your faith with confidence so that you can play your part in helping the world know Jesus. Is it a little bit like Lord of the Rings? I mean, this is a trilogy of sorts.
Well, so we're like at the coming of the king. No, what's it called? The
Return of the
King. Yeah.
Let's do another intro. Welcome to the yesHEis podcast.
the return of the king.
of the King.
I am not the king. Let's just say
That's a lowercase K.
I feel like, it's pretty
Return of,
blasphemous.
return of the lowercase K King.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for the episode today because it's like, honestly, like Jamie and I just have fat chats in the office, and I've listened to the episodes where you've chatted in the pod, and now it's like we get to have those office fat chats on the pod.
Yes.
And
we're bringing the office fat into the pod fat.
in the pod fat.
There's a lot
Pod
of
fat.
Yeah,
Pod
we're
fat.
using that word a lot. That's
I know,
okay,
fat.
though.
It's a pH fat. I'm
pH
assuming.
fat.
Yeah,
pH
pH
fat.
fat.
For those who have no idea, I think there's probably an Australian context there.
It might
pH
be,
fat.
And
yeah.
might be
It
a
means
few years
really
old.
good.
Yeah, cool.
It
It's
means cool.
years
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
Just got days, man.
It's like
Yeah.
fully sick.
fully sick. Fully sick.
For those of you who don't know Jamie or who haven't done their homework on our previous seasons, Jamie, you're a gifted evangelist. You're a communicator. You're a creative. We've done ministry for years.
We have.
And but I love that, and this is what we're going to really get into today. I love that you've had, I mean, evangelism is just like who you are. I feel like it's not like you do evangelism, it just kind of pours out of you. And so yeah, you've been a pastor, we started a not-for-profit, we've been in a band together doing
Done it
ministry.
all.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, Tim, you played the accordion, didn't you?
I played the accordion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the xylophone.
Yeah, Jamie had the bells on his shoes.
Yeah.
And he'd
Yes.
like,
and the symbols as well that
Yeah,
I
yeah.
on my knees and I keep my knees together.
The electric triangle
it
as
was
well.
initially a one-man band.
Yeah.
Of
Just
Jamie, and then he invited that.
Yeah.
Gradually
Anyway,
took
no.
parts off
Look
myself
up.
and added it.
For those of you wondering, look up at Xylophonic.
Trying to get more royalties every time. Every time Jamie's on the pod, it's just like, yeah, xylophonic. Yeah,
Link in
get some-
description.
Get some royalties on that one.
But yeah, all that to say, you've sort of had plenty of opportunity to do official ministry, but I'm actually more interested to talk about just how you personally do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not a role, like I said, it's who you are.
Mm.
And like going back to the band days, I mean, there's so many random stories, but because we would do like youth group events and like proper like gospel presentation, or not presentations, like concerts, but with music and film, and it's like Pink Floyd on steroids kind of thing. That's what I thought anyway.
Well,
Coldplay, Eat Your
Pink
Heart
Floyd was already pretty psychedelic.
It wasn't.
But then we'd be
drugged
packing up at the end, and especially we used to like play bars and like just normal music venues. And the classic would be we would all pack up after the gig. We'd be doing the hard work of like rolling up leads, packing up
Does anyone
instruments.
feel any
I
sort
sense
of
something happening.
Lord, we just think of healing.
Yes.
anger coming
Yeah,
out
that
right
root
now?
bitterness coming out.
That's
You-
right.
You've got
There
two
was
pastors
that.
on the pod today.
Yeah.
You expect some ministry time.
Yeah. We'll have ministry time at the end. But, anyway, we would all be packing up. I would, but Jamie would be like sitting at the back of the venue or at the bar or something, and just like with this other person who 9 times out of 10 would be in tears or just leaning in, and just sharing their heart. And often we would just be like, well, not often, all the time, I'd just be like, Jamie, like, how do you do that? Like, how do you take someone at, the end of just a normal night out at a bar or whatever, and and just flip, pivot, like, Ross from Friends, like pivot.
Yeah, pivot like your standard conversation into this deep and meaningful where people are crying and being ministered to. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah. And so I guess that's what we'd love to just unpack today is just like, how do you take sort of just normal everyday moments and just like pivot, bring in Jesus, bring in the gospel, bring in like something that's meaningful for that person and take them on a journey.
Yeah. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Sounds really fun.
Yeah, have you done that before?
Oh, mate, thank you for all the encouraging words. Yeah. Is that the question you're asking me, Timmy?
Yeah, let's get straight into it, I reckon. Yeah.
It's interesting. I would say when you say, that would be the case where I'd be with people hanging out talking. Well, 100% I did that because I didn't want to pack up.
The truth comes out.
The ministry. And I said, I will give you $10 if you cry because they're looking at me right now. Cry.
Yeah.
And I'm now going to put my hand on your shoulder slowly and I want you to weep a little bit more. Good.
Yeah,
They're not looking?
amazing.
Thank you very much.
This is the moneymaker. This will get me out and pack up the next 3 shows.
Do you know what I reckon? One of the keys to that, what you said, Tim, is, and I believe everyone can do it. There's definitely people that have an ability to be able to understand where people are at. But I actually think it's about understanding the next question. We are in a culture that asks one question and often move on. How are you going? Good. Great. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
But for what I've learned over a long period of time is there's always another question you can ask.
That's great.
And it's usually that question, especially in this kind of culture where we're in a hurry, fast-paced culture where people only want to know one level of relationship. If you're willing to ask someone the next question, it's amazing how quickly it goes from like this brick wall to all of a sudden people going, oh, I feel safe.
Yeah, right.
A massive part in relationship is 2 parts of great relationship, love and trust. For many of us, when I mean love, I mean people want to feel like they belong.
Yeah.
They want to feel like you see them.
Yeah.
Not just see them for their hat they're wearing or the t-shirt. No, I see you in your uniqueness. Then there's trust. What I mean by trust, people want to feel safe. Desperate for safety. You think about every person on this podcast, think about it right now. Do you want to belong? And do you want to feel safe? Of course you do.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to go beyond the pseudo questions where people go, they actually make me feel safe.
Yeah.
Or they see me beyond the next level. It's amazing how quickly people are willing to go to a deeper conversation, to open up.
Yeah, great.
And if I'm honest, it's not like I 100% want to see them have a wild moment of seeing who Jesus is and for them to see themselves for who God sees them, all that.
Yeah.
But in the process of a conversation, it's more I just go, I just want to see if you for a moment breathe out and feel safe, or for a moment see that there's someone that sees deeper than what you actually see yourself as.
Right. Love that.
Can you share any moments recently where you've seen that in play? Or what stories come to mind when?
Okay, it's this morning.
Wow, that's fresh.
That's fresh. This is fresh. You heard it first here, guys.
Well, yeah, the person he's talking to this morning probably heard it first.
So, you're very wise.
Yeah.
It's
the power of observation, guys.
Quite wise, Sam, quite wise. Well, a classic example this morning would be my daughter works at the Noosa chocolate factory as a barista there. And she rings me and says, Dad, I left my lunch. Can you bring it on the way to work? I'm like, no worries, babe. Pick up lunch, rock up to the Noosa chocolate factory, and it's my daughter, Sarah, working, and another guy that she works with who I've met multiple times from visiting the Noosa chocolate factory and getting free coffee.
Just, if you're visiting the Noosa chocolate factory, just drop Jamie 10 at the checkout.
And you might get a discount. No. And there's this man who works with my daughter who's in his early 30s, been there for a few years, and I've gradually built relationship with him over a little period of time. I walk in, my daughter's making me a coffee, and I look at him, and the Holy Spirit gives me a very specific word. He's made it clear to my daughter that he's doesn't have a faith. And the word that comes straight to my mind is risk. Now, I know a brief bit of his story. And I just look at him and say, bro, I feel like next year is going to be a year of risk for you. I see him step back. So right now I have a choice. How do I make him feel safe and feel like he belongs?
Right.
So at that point, I say his name and I say, I know that you're not built just to make coffee behind this bar. And I know you've studied a lot. Instantly, what's that saying? He sees me. And then I say to him, what I believe is there's a God that sees you for who you're truly meant to be. And next year, you have an opportunity to be invited into partly seeing that.
Right.
It's instantly, the walls are down. He looks at me and goes, I'm feeling you, man.
Wow.
I'm feeling you. And then in the prophetic, you move in the prophetic in sense of, and I literally just talk to him about, I see that you feel like you've felt like a rat on a treadmill, treading, wanting to go somewhere and you can't move. And the reason is because you feel scared. And I tell you, I understand that feeling. What does that do? Trust.
Safety.
Breaks safety.
Yeah.
Why? Because I've shared that I get that feeling.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And then that opens up that opportunity.
Yeah.
Did we talk about Jesus? No, but I told him that there's a God that deeply cares about his future. And left knowing that tonight, I'm sure my daughter will sit with me and say, Dad, you should hear the conversation that happened post that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So literally all I did was put a ball on a tee for her just to tee her up because she's an evangelist as well.
Nice.
She's an evangelist as well. So literally I just teed her up.
Is that what you're walking out and you're like,
Sarah, if you didn't nail it like this morning.
That's tag team evangelism. That's so good.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. Sorry, can I just go on and just say a couple little things?
Yeah.
When you look at the life of Jesus and you look at how he went about things, I find it fascinating. The one of the big things, which actually when I was praying about this podcast and coming in, the word that kept coming to my mind was I was reminded of when Jesus saw the 5,000 people. He'd spent ages with them and they were all hungry. You guys know that story. What was the word he said to his disciples? What did his heart do when he saw them and they were hungry?
It's moved with compassion.
Compassion. And I'm like, isn't that an amazing doorway to see the gospel met? The very thing that Jesus was moved to see people have their need met with was his compassion. I feel challenged and I feel like it's really important for anyone wanting to walk in the spirit of evangelism. It's not the goal is not go and see people saved. The goal is let your heart be broken. Let your heart be moved with compassion. What? For what? Their need.
Yeah.
Not what you think they need. No, but for their actual need.
Yeah.
And when your heart is moved in compassion, you're hungry, I'll give you food.
Yeah.
You're lost in life. You're 30 years old and you don't know what you're going to do. I'm going to break with you, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm going to speak into that future. When your heart is moved with compassion, do you know what they experience? God. Why? Do you know why?
Well, tell us.
What was the first name we hear God name himself? When God names himself in the Old Testament, do you know what he says? In Exodus to Moses, he says, Moses, come up the mountain and I'm going to tell you my name. And what's the name? It's a really, really long name. The Lord, compassionate and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in love. That's the first name God gives himself.
Wow.
How does he start it? Compassion.
Yeah.
So when you move
Yeah.
in compassion
Yeah.
and grace,
Yeah.
they'll experience love
Yeah.
and ask the question, what have I encountered?
Yeah. That's so good, hey?
The presence of God.
It reminds me of, do you remember that Brooke Fraser, formerly Brooke Fraser song? Hosanna, and there's that line that's always stuck in my mind: is break my heart for what breaks yours. And I think so often that's a dangerous and scary prayer to pray, because you're asking to be broken. You're asking to feel on a deep level the needs of the people around you, and that can get really painful and really messy really quickly. But it's also one of the best ways to meet people where they're at and be with them in the midst of their mess. And essentially, when we do that, like, that's the gospel, because Jesus comes and meets us in our mess. He comes and meets us he stoops, and meets us in the muck, in the clay that we're at.
Yeah.
And so
Sam,
when we meet people with compassion in their moment, when our hearts break, it's messy, it's painful, but people can connect with that, and you can actually reflect the gospel in that as well, which is so powerful. I love what you're saying.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
So what I'm hearing here is that, like, in order to meet people where they're at, or not even for us to meet people where they're at, but for them to meet God where they're at, we can facilitate that by understanding their needs and actually just bedding down in that.
Yeah.
With compassion to understand who they are. We were talking before, and we've had chats, like talking about fat chats.
Fat chats.
Jamie, you and I have been having some fat chats about the art of asking questions.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the key, right? Like, is to just, and that's what you were saying at the start, right? To go like, all right, let's not just start and finish at that first question. Like, what's the art of peeling back layers without an agenda, so that we can, because this is probably a whole other topic, but maybe if we're coming in with our agenda, it's like maybe just bracing our heart against compassion because we're like trying to edge something in, but we've just got to be open and just be like, where are you at?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Like, I love it, Timmy. It's a great segue. Because it's exactly right. The question is not what are they saying, but what are they saying?
Say that again.
Do you know what I mean?
It's not what they're saying.
It's but what are they saying?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm good. That's not true. How many times do you ask someone, how are you going? And they say, good. You're like, liar.
We start the day with lies every day.
If you just point blank, just be like, you're a liar. Does that work?
Is that compassion?
No, that doesn't work either.
It's also not a question.
But it's usually because people don't want to go there, because they're like, do you actually want to know?
Yeah.
Really? And they feel vulnerable by going there, because if you ask good, are you actually the kind of person I want to go there with? You know, that's it. Obviously that's a whole. But I think when it comes to the incredible opportunity we always have to be able to talk about Jesus or bring the gospel in, you know, the gospel. And when we're talking about the gospel, we're not just talking about see people make a decision to say Jesus is my Lord and Savior. When we're talking about the gospel, we're talking about like the statement Jesus made when he started out his ministry. You know, he goes, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. You know, I have come to bring good news to the poor. I've come to bind the brokenhearted. I've come to set the captive. That's the gospel. Yeah. The gospel is all that. So when we're talking the gospel, we're talking the holistic perspective of the kingdom of God marching on earth into our present moment. So the question is, what question? How do we do that? And I think Timmy, when we were talking, and it's been a wonderful journey. Tim and I have been journeying this last kind of 6 months of like asking the bigger questions about how to share your faith and what is an art of sharing your faith. And we've gone on this journey of discovering or asking what are the questions below the questions that people really want answered.
Yeah, great.
And it led me on a tangent of going, what are the big questions people ask? And then we did some research, and we've come to a place where, N.T. Wright talks about this, one of the greatest theologians of the modern era. I also heard John Tyson unpack this in one of his messages to his church, the Church of the City in New York. And I remember him saying these questions, and I remember going, that's it. They would say there are 5 questions every person in this world are asking. Do you want to know what those questions are?
Yes.
I do.
Should we take a vote?
Vote. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Hands up who wants to see the questions.
I would like to hear the
Yep.
question.
Question.
I'm outvoted.
You're outvoted. Yeah.
Of course I want to hear the questions.
Yeah, but Tim's in control. So if you want to hear them, you jump on our Patreon page.
And guys, and I'll just bring context. The reason we're talking about these 5 questions is because when you get these 5 questions, what we're going to end up probably discussing is when you hear those questions, these questions are going to go, well, these are really big. I've never heard anyone actually ask those questions. But what we've discovered is there's always questions below the questions that will help you hear that question being answered. For example, the top 5 questions people ask is for number 1, why am I here? Why are we here? Great question. Number 2, what went wrong? Why am I here? What went wrong? What can fix this? What's my part in it? And how will it look when it is? I'll say those 5. Do you want me to say the 5 again? Yeah. Okay. Why am I here? What went wrong? What will fix it? What's my part? And how will it look when it is? Now, they're the 5 big questions. Have you guys ever heard those 5 big questions asked?
Yes.
Maybe the first and second.
The first and the second, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the deeper you go in a conversation, maybe some of those later questions come up a little bit, like, what's my part? Like kind of thing. Like I think that comes out through the process of conversation when you're chatting with someone.
Yeah.
I went bowling once and it was like this really like average bowling alley. I remember like halfway through the first game, I was like, why are we here?
You've asked
So
one of
I've
the big
asked.
5.
And then, what went wrong?
He saw his score at the
And
end.
then he thought to himself, what will fix it? What will fix it? And
The answer is always
what's my
Jesus.
part?
Yeah, what's my part? Well, I decided to come here.
And what would it look like if we did?
So I guess,
You've worked through all that.
We were in like a super spiritual moment and then you started talking about bowling and I was like, well, where is Tim going with this?
I just like,
But what I love about that illustration, Timmy, is reality is I wonder how many of us actually process those 5 in a row like that in our day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why am I at this workplace today? Did I actually choose to commit to be here today?
Yeah.
And then going, like in the day, what went wrong with what I did to make it hard today? There's a process. There's these processes we follow, and they are generic 5 big questions that everyone asks. But you might be like everyone else around this table going, "What? That doesn't make sense, James. I don't get those questions." But how do we manage to have conversations regularly? Is because without us realizing it, everyone is asking these 5 questions, but it's all a matter of hearing it in the things they're saying.
So there's like, these are the almost like headline questions.
Yeah, that's it, Tim.
This is like, there's a bunch of other questions underneath that, which actually just fall under like, if someone's asking this question, it's actually that what they're deeply asking is like, like, why am I here?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly. And what I've learned and what I'm continuing to learn is every day I talk to people and without me realizing it, they're asking one of those questions by saying maybe a different statement, but really they're asking one of those big questions. Do you want me to give you an example?
Yeah.
Yes.
For example, let's go for the question. The top question is, why am I here? Now that question effectively is about purpose and identity. Why are you asking that question? Well, I'm going, who am I? And what's my part in this world? What's my purpose? Tell me, when you guys did year 12, what were you thinking?
What am I going to do next year?
What am I going to do next year? How many year 12 students have you sat with?
Also, why am I here?
Why the hell am I at school? You're not helping this at all to me.
The biggest question I had in grade 12 was, what am I eating for lunch?
Did mum pack my lunchbox?
Yeah, 100%.
It's good, Sam. Thanks for nothing.
So encouraging.
No, but like great questions around that. It's like you know, you hit year 11, you hit year 12, and most students are starting to go, what's my future going to look like?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to go to university? Am I going to go to TAFE? Am I going to get an apprenticeship? Am I just going to go get a job? And am I going to go have a gap year? What question are they effectively asking?
What's my purpose?
Why am I here?
Yeah.
Because what is it talking? It's coming back to their purpose. Classic, and like another question people could you might hear is like, why do I feel empty even though I have so much.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like, like you meet people that you look at their life and go, you got everything, but you seem purposeless. What are they asking when they ask a question like that? Why am I here? And if we start to listen out into conversations, you start to hear statements like that. Like the other day, my neighbor came out. He's 55. He's just come back from traveling Australia for 6 months. And he's just pulling his caravan up. I walk across the road, welcome him back. I'm like, what made you do this? And he said, well, the people that used to live in your house that we bought a couple of years ago, they were in their late 80s. And within a couple of months, they both died. And me and my wife really liked those people. And we got to this place we're going, when we're 80, in our late 80s, would we be content to say we're ready to go now based on what we've done?
Right.
So as a result of that, he goes, we're like, why would I keep running this business that I don't enjoy, work 6 days a week for? So he goes, I sold the business.
Wow.
My wife finished up her work and we said, let's travel for 6 months. What question are they asking? Why am I here?
Why am I here?
Yeah, great.
So do you know what that does? It enables me to have a conversation with them about it.
Yeah.
So I go in going, man, that's wild. What did you discover when you were out on the road then? Which therefore opened up this whole land of faith discussion because he talked about what they did, and I'm like, and you go, so now that you've arrived back, do you think you've found the answer to the question you left for? And he said to me, no. That led to us talking for an hour at the front of his caravan about his identity and me sharing about my own story of identity, which ended up leading to me going, I'll tell you a bit about Jesus.
Yeah.
But that's because we saw the question within the question.
Yeah. Love that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so
such a
good.
great example
That's
of
so
that.
good.
Then, for example, so you've got first question is, why am I here? Purpose. You will see people all the time talking around that. The next question is, what went wrong? So I don't know about you guys, but you probably haven't heard that lots of times. Someone walk around and go, what's wrong? What's going on? But how many times have you sat in a conversation and someone say to you, why is this so much? If there is a God, how come there is so much pain and suffering in this world?
Yeah.
Or how many times have you guys sat with people where they're broken over a loved one dying and they're just going, I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost the fundamental question, right? Even about anything, right? Relationship breaking down, losing a job, not feeling fulfilled. Like everyone's just being like, what the heck? Like what? What is going on here?
Yeah.
Like processing pain and just not knowing.
Yeah.
Like where am I here?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
If you're wondering if you'll ever overcome your fear and be bold enough to talk about Jesus, it's time to stop letting fear hold you back. The yesHEis Overcome Your Fear Challenge is here to give you the boldness to share your faith with confidence. In just 5 days, you'll get biblical encouragement and simple steps to help you face your fears head on. No matter where you're at on your journey of sharing your faith, this challenge will help you. Imagine no more overthinking, no more what ifs, just confident, authentic conversations about Jesus. Conversations that change lives. If you're ready to take the first step, join thousands of Christians around the world who've said yes to sharing their faith despite the fear. Click the link in the description and sign up today for the Overcome Your Fear Challenge, because the world needs to know Jesus, and it starts with you.
Those questions, when I hear those questions, all I go is, they're asking what went wrong.
Yeah.
And because of that question, I know there's a gospel answer. Just like under every one of those, that's what I didn't say before. Every one of those questions has a gospel answer.
Yeah.
Every one of those questions, Jesus gives the answer to it.
Yeah.
And if we learn to hear them, we have a gospel answer we can give.
Yeah.
So what went wrong? We know that the answer is not necessarily, yeah, you're right. How can there be a God when there's so much pain and suffering? That's a great question because I know pain. I've felt pain myself. Well, let's talk about where we think pain came from. And often in conversation, that's where I'll go.
Yeah.
Do you know what's fascinating? Timmy and I discovered this. The question we don't know, often we'll want to talk about sin straight away.
Mm.
Can I give you a tip? Don't talk about sin straight away because sin is a Jesus word.
Yeah.
The best place to start is talking about evil.
Right.
Instead of talking about sin, let's talk about evil. Why? Why would you talk about evil rather than sin? Because evil's a common word.
Yeah.
Sin is not a common word.
Yeah.
So if someone's having a conversation, they talk about pain and stuff, or talk about anything to do with this question, the best place to go, what do you think evil is then?
Yeah.
And do you know what the dictionary definition for evil is? I wrote it down because I knew we'd talk about this. I want to get it right because I'll stuff it up if I try to do a Jamie memory. Oh, no, I didn't actually put it here. Did I put it?
Somebody Google it.
Oh, no.
Write it in the
Google
comments.
quickly.
No, here we go.
Jesse, can you look it up, please?
While
No.
you're looking for it,
Jesse.
while you're looking for it, I think there's actually a great distinction to make there between sin and evil, because like sin almost has this
Got it.
confronting personal connotation.
Yes.
Like there's like this. It's like when you say sin, you're like, oh, you calling me a sinner? Like it's almost a label or a
It's
thing
a
that
you are evil.
Yeah, it's pretty confronting to
Yeah.
someone. But evil doesn't necessarily have to be in here, which, you know, at the end of the day, when we're sharing the gospel is that in essence it is in here. That's what went wrong. But evil is less like, I can say it's out there a little bit.
Yeah.
And you can talk about it for a little bit longer and help people to grasp it before saying, hey, yeah, I'm the problem.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, like if you look at the stats, there's a whole lot of common responses. You know, if you go, what is evil? People will say murder. People will say sexual abuse. People will say slavery. They're the common statements you'll hear when you say evil.
Yeah.
You know, the dictionary definition is so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's a person or people with a lack of empathy, a person that puts their needs ahead of others as paramount importance. That is ridiculous.
Wow.
That's like a definition of sin.
Could
right?
you not define sin any more clearly?
Wow.
Oh, really? A person or a people with a lack of empathy, or a person that puts their needs ahead of others as paramount importance.
Dang.
That's crazy, guys. So
Yeah.
effectively, you go, hey, do you know what the dictionary definition of it is? Selfishness. You choosing to be
That blows my mind.
Doesn't that blow your mind, man?
Jeez. Yeah, I'm going to start talking about evil instead.
Yeah. But why do we talk about evil, Sam? Because all of a sudden it's an inroad to talk about sin. Because actually when you go, I don't feel threatened.
Yeah.
I don't feel threatened. I go, well, because the question I ask off that question is like, so it says a person that puts their needs ahead of others. And when you've defined evil as murder, like all these other crazy things, shit, that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I put my needs ahead of everyone every day.
Yeah, I ran ahead of that dude so I can pay my petrol before he got in.
Just,
Relative.
ministry time, just really feeling a word for someone out there.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
It's simple, like it's just a common language that actually points back to a gospel truth.
Yeah, right.
All right. So we go, why are we here? That leads to great conversations about like purpose, God's love for us, God's,
Yes.
you know, what went wrong.
It leads to conversations about sin. It leads to conversations about pain. But the bigger question they're asking when they're asking that question is, why do I feel broken and why do I feel so lost? When I look at this world and I look at war, famine, like political insecurity, everything going on, when I feel like the question they're asking is, I don't have any control of this. And what's the cause?
Which is question 3.
Which is the question
What
3.
will fix it?
What will fix it?
Yeah.
What are ways that you think we hear what will fix it?
Yeah. I reckon.
Because this is it seems like, because at a very superficial level, it's easy to go, what will fix it? And I'm like, amazing, Jesus.
Yeah.
But it seems way too simple. And I'm really interested to go on that first question. It's like, how does that translate? Like, how can we hear that?
I think this question actually is one of the, they're all wonderful. But if you start to get your head around what's actually being asked, or what things are people trying to ask when they're actually asking this question, or what will fix it? We are all trying to answer this question.
Mm.
My career is how I'm trying to fix it.
Mm.
Making money.
Mm.
I just need to need to own something. Why? Because you're trying to fix a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Through sports, through what I look like, through my social media account, through ultimately people are all asking that question, and they're not asking it directly because they're desperately trying to fix it themselves.
Do you think this is more like observable in people? So you're like seeing someone, you're like, oh man, like, and not judging, but just it's like obvious they're,
they're
pursuing an answer.
Yeah, they're desperately trying to find the answer to what is, that well-known philosopher that talked about the God-shaped hole, the vacuum,
right? The
vacuum in the heart.
Yeah.
Do you know that one?
No, I know.
It's like we all have a God-shaped vacuum in us that we are waiting to be satisfied.
Right.
And it's at the end of the day, that's the question people are asking. But I wrote down like things like, what will make me happy? What they're effectively asking is, what will fix it?
Yeah.
How can I heal?
Mm.
Like, what's it like in this world right now where it's so much about self, trying to fix self? How do I get this right? Well, you're asking what's going to fix it. Is there any hope for peace? If I just figure this out, then this will be enough. These are all common questions you'll hear in conversations where effectively they're just asking, how do we fix it?
Yeah.
And the gospel has an answer.
Yeah. I think it's so important that the question preceding this one is the what went wrong, because like you can't introduce a solution to a problem that people aren't aware of. Yeah. And I think like if you're like, hey man, Jesus loves you and Jesus is the answer, people are like, cool. Answer to what problem are you talking about?
100%.
When you help people understand to connect that longing in the heart, the question that they've got of what went wrong, to not just out there, evil out in the world, but then you redefine, or you repackage sin in the way that is understandable, that it's actually evil, and evil is actually not just out there, but it's in here. And when you can take someone on that journey of understanding that what went wrong with the world is not just what happened out there, but also what happened in here. And when people understand, oh, the problem's in me, then it becomes so much more real when it's like, it's just that not just the world needs a solution, but I need a solution. My heart needs a solution. There's a great, I can't remember who it was. It might've been R.C. Sproul, where in answer to a newspaper, like a question that was put out through the newspaper, and it said, what's wrong with the world? And I think it was R.C. Sproul. And
it's
G.K. Chesterton. Yeah. And writes back and he says, dear editor, I am yours regard. And it's like
regards, GK.
Just recognizing the same thing that Paul did, that I am the chief of sinners. And so it's like when you recognize, what's wrong with the world is me, is actually not just what's happening out there, but it's a universal human experience. I am. Then it's like, okay. It's not just the world needs a solution, I need a solution. And that's why that question that follows is so important.
And when it comes to the fix it question, if you don't want to go, hey, let's dive into Jesus, one of the great common language is, do you believe in a higher power? Like higher power is a great way of coming in, because what stats are 77% of Gen Z believe there is a higher power. So if you come in with, when you're having a chat, it's like, do you believe in a higher power? And that gives you the opportunity for them to hear what their journey is. Because from that place of, my wife was having a chat with someone 2 days ago who's like a new age, like highly new age. And so she talked with her for hours about her new age thing. And then she kind of turns to Janie and says, what are you into? And Janie just literally looked at her and says, I'm just a Jesus girl. And Janie said it literally just, it silenced her, because then she was like, I know this is this stuff, you're the higher power you're into, but can I tell you about the personal God that I know? And was able to have a beautiful conversation around Jesus with this woman. But talking about high power is a beautiful way of coming in. Because stats would say, you can talk about all these different Buddhism, Hinduism, whatever. But then the opportunity leads you towards going, Did you know, out of all the religions in all the world, Jesus is the most highly sought after? What that all of a sudden just opens up things to a land of conversation.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. I love that stat that you shared, that 70% of
Gen Z.
Gen Z. I think a lot of people think that the world is post-Christian, but it's actually increasingly pre-Christian.
Yeah.
Which actually blows your mind when you think about the opportunity that is before us to sow seeds of faith.
We are in the greatest season of opportunity to talk to people. We are, guys.
I think it's an opportunity.
We are in the greatest season of opportunity in the West, where obviously things are what God's doing in the East and area is crazy, but what He's breaking down in the West is, I reckon, profound.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's moving into the similar opportunity that has been in the East, because like you think about Eastern nations, it's like Japan, like atheistic nation, like no knowledge of Jesus, or and I think post-Christian is like, oh, we've tried it and thrown it out. My parents knew about it, they've thrown it out. But it's coming back to now like that, ignorance, and not calling people ignorant, but just like literally like they don't understand, they haven't heard about it.
100%.
And so it's like it's actually a nice thing in terms of the slate is clean. And I've been surprised getting to know one of our team here, Molly, who's previously been in New Age, and she's like, man, so many New Agers are like well acquainted with Jesus, but just not in the way that we would sort of interact. But it's like, what an opportunity to to have that conversation and to unpack that more.
I think it speaks to the prevalence of the truth of the gospel, where it's like generations come and go, but the gospel is always the same. It's always good news, no matter what generation you're from. And I think, and when I say prevalence, I mean like it prevails. Despite the seasons, like the truth of the gospel is always profound and powerful. And so, I love that.
Hey guys, Alex Tan here. I hope you're doing well. I really hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. If you are, you can find more amazing content like that here. Like, subscribe to keep up to date with everything that's happening. And why don't you drop a comment with something that's spoken to you so far in the comments, and we'd love to respond and hear from you. God bless. Enjoy the rest. That rhymed. Wow.
So we've done 3 questions.
We've done why we're here, what went wrong, what will fix it. So what's my part?
It's a great question. So what question are people, like if you're in a conversation with someone, you want to hear that question, what are they asking? They're asking the question they ask before they choose to join a gym. Like, what's this going to cost me? And what's going to be required of me to actually get,
not just in money, but in pain
and and in health. What's this going to? So it's the question of cost. It's a question of like, so if I need to be like, if their version of fix it is I just got to make me better, they're now asking the question, what am I going to have to do to make me better? Okay, well, I'm going to go down the health line. Then I'll go down mindfulness. Then I'll go
self-help.
They'll go down, and they'll ask questions like, "What's it?" But the big question's actually asking, "What's the cost? What's this going to cost?"
Would you say this is for someone who, like, because my immediate thought is this is for someone maybe who understands Jesus, has dabbled in Christianity, or understand? Like, are you?
No, it's
like,
I hear that, but if you're hearing it in the context of everyone asks every one of these questions, it's not like. This is not, why am I here? Then you jump to the next question. Then you jump to the next question. I would say what's my part is actually the part of going, it's actually an incredible gospel opportunity. Because you're going, it's on me to fix it. So it's what will fix it. What do I have to do to be a part of that process then?
Right.
And if you're in a conversation with someone going, the way I'm going to get mentally healthy, physically healthy is I need to work really hard. Do you know what I would say that? Man, that's a lot of work to get there, bro. That's a lot of
right.
weight.
Yeah.
It's a lot of weight for you to carry.
Right.
That's a phenomenon. Do you know what? Imagine if you didn't have to carry that weight of making yourself perfect.
Yeah.
Imagine if someone else could actually take that weight from you and not make, and you're being good or you're being right or you're being healthy was not dependent on what you did, but a gift someone's already given you. Would you take that? Like, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's actually anyone can be. A lot of people are at that place. People, the self-help land are already asking that question, what's my part?
Yeah.
What's my part? What's my part? You know, a son desperately trying to please his dad asks that question. A daughter trying to please their mum and dad asks that question. What's my part to be seen? What's my part? You know, we all ask that underlying question of, what do I need to do just to be noticed?
Yeah.
And then the thought of the gospel saying, he's already noticed you.
Yeah.
The fact that
It's the grace thing.
it's the
isn't
grace.
Yeah.
This is the grace question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the abounding
Yeah.
question,
Okay.
which is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anything to do, this is the works question.
Yeah.
This is the works question where Christians can be found in this question too, because they still think it's their part is instead of receiving, their part
Right.
is doing more.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Question 5.
Yeah. Yeah. Question 5. So, we've got why are we here? What went wrong? What will fix it? What's my part? And how will it look when it is? Again, like I think I know, but it feels too superficial. Like obviously, like painting the picture of like life with God, and is that?
Yeah.
But like, how are people asking? Like the answer seems obvious, but the question, I'm like, how are people like? How do I see?
Do you know a question? Like, I'll tell you what it's called. Retirement.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like the question of like people asking, what's it going to look like when I get to 65? Then I can just relax.
Yeah.
They've got a vision of
Yeah.
what their future is going to look like.
Yeah.
Their idea of euphoria.
Right.
What, like, do you know what it's called? A holiday.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? What's that question birthing from? Is like, what's it going to look like when I'm fully just me? What's it going to look like when I don't have to carry the weight of work, to carry the weight of deep, heavy relationships, carry the weight of that? That's the question of like, so you speak to someone who's stepping into retirement, like, you know, I just cannot wait for retirement. This is going to be amazing. Like, what are you hoping for?
Yeah. Right.
And they'll give you, I'm like, wow, like, so you're describing is that your end product?
Will this bring the solution
will this
that
be
you
the
want?
solution that you want?
Fix?
You know, like, or this holiday, this you're getting to travel for 3 months. You've saved for a UK trip to travel all around Europe, and like this is going to be life changing. And what they're affected is like, this is what it's going to look like when it is.
Yeah.
How's it going to look? But really, they get to the end and they're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a beautiful. So when you're in that, again, you get to share the good news from that, because that's the gospel. Is what you're effectively get to say is what you're wanting is new life.
Yeah.
That's what you're wanting.
Right.
The deep question you're truly asking is there complete new life for me? Like when I finish work, will I experience life like I've never experienced before? Is there a new life without the burden of waking up at 6 o'clock to do the same thing every day for 40 years of my life?
Yeah.
Is there new life?
Yeah.
What an amazing opportunity to share the gospel from that place.
Yeah.
Kind of speaks to hope. Hey,
Hope. 100%.
It's like every person wants to have hope, and I think there are a lot of like superficial options out there. There are like a lot of things that offer hope, but like ultimately, it's empty. It's ultimately it doesn't actually provide that when it's like when you get there, it doesn't feel like you thought it would. It's like what you're talking about, that holiday, the retirement, that next step, like whatever that next thing is. It's like that constant searching for hope, but it's never actually going to fill that thing. But and that's where the gospel comes in, where Jesus comes in and actually offers that living water, like the woman at the well. It's just like, yeah, if you knew who you're talking to, you'd be asking for living water.
Yeah.
100%.
And so that
100%.
Yeah.
And this is also where it comes into that the difference between your version and God's version is you're not alone any longer. Like this is where the Holy Spirit comes in. This is where the power and the presence of God enter. The difference between Christianity and every other religion is others are around outside you. This one is life-changing in you. The presence of God in, not out.
Yeah.
And man, even talking about this and the last three, but particularly this one, I'm just like, well, when you talk about that inner transformation and hey, like what will it look like when it is? Well, when you follow Jesus, the Holy Spirit lives inside of you, which means that does he pluck you out of your troubles? Does he pluck you out of this world? No. But does he help you navigate? Does he bring you to life in the death?
Walks with you and gives you hope in the midst of that.
Yeah. And so I'm like, well, hang on. Are we talking about what will look when it is, or are we talking about what went wrong or what will fix it? And so it's like these are sort of, you're right, James, it's not like this isn't like a system for those of you who are listening that are very like systems oriented.
First, let's establish question 1 and then question 2.
That's right.
Let's work our way through
but it's
systematically.
Really it's a triage, and it's almost like these could be 5 conversations with the one person over 5 different, angles, like it's just such a multifaceted approach. So,
and what it does, Timmy, if listeners are listening, they go, "Wow, that was quite complicated." We probably bounced around a lot, and maybe we could do another time where we actually just make it a lot more simple.
Yeah.
But what it effectively does is, if you start to be asking in any conversation, what question are they asking? The more you start to think through that, the more you realize the opportunity to show compassion, the opportunity to actually speak life into someone is nearly every day.
Great.
It's nearly every day.
Yeah.
And,
so good.
And that creates, back to right from the beginning when you talked about, James, how do you do it? That's the question. They're the questions I'm asking in my mind.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah. So 5 questions. We'll put them in the description so you can, I don't know, copy and paste them into your phone, write them down. But why are we here? What went wrong? What will fix it? What's my part? How will it look when it is? Write those down into your phone. Put them in notes app. And even, would you say, James, is like even a bit of a practice as people are getting ready, getting their heads around this? It almost could be done retrospectively as well as in the moment, because it might be like from the start. I can imagine, just like what are they asking? Blah, blah. Even just like have conversations, ask questions, start like trying to with compassion just draw out like what are people's needs, where are people really at, and then retrospectively like open up the questions on your phone, just be like, what was I hearing there, like which one would have that fallen into? Because then as you start to navigate that, you'll be in situ probably and just be like, and that's where we can rely on the Spirit, right? And just be like, this is what they're asking.
Yeah, great.
And it's this thing that will just sort of grow over time. But thank you so much for coming in and just sharing that. And I think it's definitely something for us here at yesHEis. We're going to keep unpacking this and exploring it. And there's probably some exciting things that we'll be doing over this year.
Absolutely.
That we can just keep bringing tools and conversation around this.
Yeah, great.
But just as a way of wrapping up, James, would you just pray for us and everyone who's listening right now? And because it's such a, like we were talking about at the start, like when Jesus looked out at the multitudes and just had compassion, I think this is such a like triage system, like a real sort of open methodology to be able to help us have compassion for people and draw people towards Jesus.
Thank you, Lord.
Would you just pray for us? And
I just what's on my spirit is often like you'll go, okay, I need to have compassion. But the question I first ask to any listener right now is, do you know that's how he looks at you? That's his name over you. Because the way I give it is firstly receive it. So what I'm going to pray is in your space right now is that you experience his compassion and grace now. That's the first thing over your life. There's people that will be feeling shame right now, not good enough, not living up to the standard. But the first name is compassion and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in love. So God, I thank you that this is who you are. You are more than we can get our heads around. And the fact that you are not a teacher, God, that comes in with a stern fist or a rod, but you are a compassionate God, gracious, slow to anger and abounding in love and faithfulness. I pray for every listener right now that they will receive who you are right now in all your fullness. Let them receive every part of your heart for them. Let them experience your brokenness over them, God, that you delight in them and break for them in order so they can be met and filled. And right now I pray wherever people are listening to this, that you, Spirit of God, will minister deeply to them, set people free from chains that have bound them to lies, bound them to terrible thinking of identity. I break that lie in Jesus, your name. And I ask God for them to encounter your incredible, like in Zephaniah 3, it says, and he sings over his people. I pray right now, every listener will hear your voice singing over them, your delight and your love. But Lord, then I ask in your mighty name that as they receive your compassion, that you will give them an overwhelming desire to see with compassion, to see with grace, and to know what you feel for others so that they can be your hands and your feet. I thank you for that. You are so kind, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Jamie. Thank you so much. So appreciate who you are and everything that you've brought. And if you're listening, hope that's really encouraged you. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Nice.